The reason that love isn't enough is because indifference in lifestyle, indifference in maturity, won't be changed by love itself. And I've been in this position where I've had to leave someone. I had to leave my partner recently 2 weeks ago. If day to day you're feeling drained, you're feeling like you're walking on eggshells, you're anxious, you feel like you're overthinking everything they do, everything they say, just the dynamic in general, if it's making you feel less or making you feel drained as a whole, that in itself is a sign that love is not enough. And it's a very, very painful situation to be in, so I have full empathy for how you feel in this moment, especially if you're the one that's deciding whether you need to leave, like I did. Love is that whispering voice that says stay because it might work. Stay because love is enough. Love is what makes the relationship work, but in reality, you're talking from a place of emotion. And I get it. You know, love should be enough. Love in itself, like, makes sense to just be everything you need. But the truth is, love is just half of it. You know, there has to be emotions and logistics at play. And the logistics are, if your dynamic doesn't work harmoniously, if you two as a couple are not in the same place maturity-wise, if you're not in the same stage of life, then a lot of things can come in the way of that. If you don't function the same, if you don't have the same mindset when it comes to respect, when it comes to boundaries, when it comes to sharing the dynamic, it doesn't work, you know, because you have to work harmoniously. But then day to day, you know, you continue loving that person, you continue trying to share that bond, but then all the other things in the background get in the way. And that's the dynamic. That's the maturity, the stage in life, the lifestyle that they live. If they don't align properly in that moment, there's always going to be a clash. The thing I had to think about in that moment is, do they respect me the same way I respect them? Are they overstepping boundaries that I've set that I won't shift? Does their lifestyle or the way that they behave currently align with the version of me or the version of a person that I want in my life? You know, I think those three things are enough to dictate your decision. As men, all we crave is peace. You know, we don't want chaos, we don't want drama, we don't want things to come up day to day that we have to deal with. You know, we want that harmonious dynamic where it's consistent, it's comfortable, it's safe, you know, for you emotionally and physically. So if you always feel like you're walking on eggshells, you feel anxious, you feel like you're overthinking, you know, that drains you mentally. You know, there's only so much time that you can do that for. When it comes to making a decision as well, you often think about memories, you think about everything that's included in the relationship, like your family, maybe they're quite close, maybe you share friends, maybe you work in the same place, maybe you live together, maybe you even have kids together. You know, all of those things obviously come into play, but you can't let them alone dictate your decision between you and your partner, because you do deserve to be in a relationship that makes you happy, that makes you feel safe, that makes you feel like you've got reciprocated effort. You've got to consider whether your lifestyles meet each other, whether your future aligns, are your plans the same? You know, do you have similar goals? Is the life that you want 10 years from now the same as theirs, or if not similar? Would it work harmoniously? Do you see them as a good fit to be a mother for your children? Do you see them being a good wife? You know, all of these things matter, and I think that is something you should be thinking about when making a decision as to leave or stay. I also want to say that if your dynamic is actually quite healthy, if your love is strong, but there's just maybe some hiccups in the relationship or there's some misalignment, then maybe approach your partner and try and have a conversation with them. You know, this doesn't necessarily need to be just about breaking up or staying because you're fearing what else is out there or making the wrong decision. And if your partner's mature enough to sit down and have a conversation with you and maybe try and work out these differences, work out this dynamic, work out what has gone wrong, you know, have a constructive conversation with them and try and rebuild on what was lost, then it could be a good opportunity for you to rebuild and possibly have a stronger relationship in the future. But that conversation would have to happen, and if you're the one that's feeling the weight of the situation, you will need to be the one that approaches them with it. I just think the one thing you can't do in this situation is just sit back and let it unfold naturally. You can't sit back and hope that things will change. You can't sit back and not bring this conversation up with them. You can't make that hard decision because it is all on you in a way. Like, you can't sit back and hope that things will change on their own, because that's not really how relationships work. You know, oftentimes when people stay together out of fear of making the wrong choice or not finding it again, resentment builds because you're not with the right person and you know it subconsciously, but you're scared to make a decision. If you want an example, me leaving my ex was, I know, to be the right decision for me, logistically speaking. emotionally speaking, it kind of felt like I was going against everything that I stand for, because love to me should be enough, but logically speaking, it's not. So the love between me and her is very real, it's very strong, but it doesn't change lifestyle differences, respect, boundaries. It doesn't change any of those things. So you have to make a decision that's based on self-respect, because if you're self-abandoning or you're pushing your boundaries aside just to stay with someone, that will build resentment and you will look back in regret. The one thing you should be focused on right now is you and your needs and what you want and what you deserve, because if none of those things are being met, you really need to make a decision that's best for you. And that's what I had to do. And it's not always easy. Sometimes it's the hardest thing you'll ever do when it comes to relationships, but sometimes it's the most rewarding. And sometimes it's the very thing that you need to do to get to where you need to be. So I would never look at things as a negative. Oh, but what if? It's like I can't sit in that space anymore. I can't sit in the what if, because it doesn't serve any purpose. It's fear. It's anxiety. You almost need to just grab it and just fucking throw it away, because it serves no purpose. If you want a happy, healthy relationship, you can 100% have that, whether it's with this person or someone else. So I would never think this is it. I'm not going to have anyone else. I'm never going to meet anyone else. You 100% will in time. But at the same time, this could be your person. If you can work on it and things can be fixed, then try. It's 100% worth it. But never tolerate disrespect. Never let someone get rid of your boundaries or make you feel bad for having them. Don't let someone make you feel anxious or feel like you're not enough every day, because you can't live in that life. That life, that can't exist. For you to be the best version of yourself and for you to be happy, that has to go. I know that you can make the right decision for you. So I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you to do anything, because that's not my job. My job right now is to try and guide you, at least to try and find your answer. But if you have any questions, or if you're in a similar situation to the one I described that I'm in, then please leave a comment. I'll answer every single one of you. If you have any questions in general about what to do in your situation, again, leave a comment. I will try and answer every single one. But you just got to do what's best for you. That's all. You've just got to do what is best for you.